Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Brother Gabriel Romani. We have another question today from mytaskia.com. Brother is saying that I feel lustful toward a colleague at work who I have work with every day. Can you please give me some advice? Jazakallah khair. This is the concept of ikhtilat and mixing in the workplace. Now, people have to work, we know that. People will laugh at you in the West because it is a mixed environment. Brothers and sisters work. I've already talked about sisters and to why sisters are more susceptible to fall into this sin of mixing and falling in love, especially continuously working with someone in a mixed environment. We've talked about this in videos before. I'm not going to go into details, but I do stand by what I said, that women are more susceptible because they're more emotional to be attached or to fall in love with another man at work. And that's why I discourage women from working in a place for 8 hours a day with Ahmed or Tom or whatever his name is. And, she's going to compare this guy who's at work in a specific image, putting a specific show at work, obviously. And she's going to compare that going back home to her husband, who's been himself coming back from work, and she was not present there to welcome him, and he might have a temper. So she's going to say, well, Tom is always nice to me. He's always kind. He brings me gifts. And Muhammad is just always shouting and angry and saying the house is not clean. Then Muhammad has made a big mistake because he allowed Aisha to work, in this mixed environment, as opposed to staying home and taking care of things, and her at least being relaxed when he comes home, and she diffuses him and loves him, and they love each other. It's beautiful, mashallah. But anyway, this is a brother asking the question. So you have, obviously, men are more exposed to this kind of situation because, especially in the West, they work with Tracy and Stacy and whatever her name is. And she's, putting makeup. And he himself is comparing Tracy and Stacy, laughing, joking, smiling all the time, wearing revealing clothes to his wife sometimes at home, who is not taking care of herself. And he falls lustful towards her. And of course, men in general feel more lustful and judge women more on aesthetics and appearances. Women also being exposed, as I said, continuously to an environment where she sees the same type of man, she might develop lust for that man, but not at the same rate as a man would for a woman. So they're definitely a huge problem. What's the advice? Well, again, men have to work. There can be so many excuses as to why the man should be in a mixed environment or is in a mixed environment. Again, many, if not most Muslim men in UK, Australia, Canada will be working in a mixed environment. Unless you have your own business and you can dictate how the environment is run. So I do advise this brother to maybe look at or think outside of the box and see what he can do to remove himself from that environment. If you're in an environment where your deen is compromised, you might fall into sin. You might commit zina. I've had clients who have committed zina at work. Or even worse, they've committed a crime of maybe raping a woman and then have to deal with the law. I'm not joking. It's happened. Or sexual assault. And they've been incarcerated because of it. And there's huge problems, the shame and so on. And if you ask him why, he's like, lust. I couldn't hold myself. Every single day for a year or two, I've seen the same woman. She's nice to me. She came on to me. And then when I reciprocated, she said, oh, and then she reported me. The guy didn't do right. The woman didn't do right. But this is the environment. You're putting yourself out there in that situation where it's more possible for you to commit that sin, to fall into that sin. And that's why Allah says, لا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان. Do not follow the steps. لا تقربوا الزنا. Don't get close. He didn't say don't commit zina, don't be with shaitan. Don't follow the steps. The steps, step by step, you're going to fall into it. Don't come close to zina. Don't get to the situation where you might be committing zina. And yes, our ummah is plagued by zina, plagued by these problems today. So it is a real situation that probably many Muslim men are faced with today. The solution is, I would say, is the same. You do a hijrah from the environment that you're in. You remove yourself. You know yourself. You remove yourself, because if there's the potential of you committing zina, of cheating on your wife, of disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not worth it. Your job is not worth it, education is not worth it, nothing is worth it, a'udhu billah, to risk your Jannah and to end up in Jahannam. But we don't think about it that way. We will justify it through 100 different reasons as to why I have to be there. It might be that this is your opportunity to break away from the system, to start your own business, to reprofile yourself, recalibrate your life. It might be the opportunity you've been looking for, as opposed to being a slave to your desires in an environment, or maybe to a bad boss in an environment that you're not happy with and takes you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look outside the box. Think of what are the opportunities. Sit down with yourself and see what are your connections, what are your opportunities, what are your qualifications, maybe where do you have to improve, what are your resources and finances, what can you do, and put that niyyah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember the verse, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجٍ وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. For the person who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will give them a way out, and He will provide for them rizq, يَرْزُقُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ, from places you will never even think about it. Right now in your mind, you're probably trying to put one and one together rationally and say, well, if I quit, I won't have money. But in Islam, it doesn't necessarily work like that. The concept of barakah is greater. Like, people cannot explain it with a balance sheet of how barakah works, and rizq and ni'mah. It doesn't. It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It just cannot be explained in rational sense. So it might be the opportunity you're looking for. So think about it. Put your deen first. Make a hijrah from that environment. Maybe sometimes you just gotta just quit and move on. Maybe you can control yourself and you're fasting and you're lowering your gaze. But again, when a person or a man is lustful over a woman that he's with over and over again, this is a recipe for disaster. So you might want to do the hijrah away from that environment. Look at what opportunities you have, and it might even benefit your dunya, that you will start this amazing new business or endeavor that is going to make you so successful, yet you've protected yourself from Allah, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the evil, and Allah will bless you and put barakah in that and give you the dunya inshallah and the akhirah. And that's what we ask in our du'as. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. O Allah, give us in this dunya hasan, or good, or the best, and in the akhirah, the hereafter, the best, and protect us, save us from the torment of the hellfire. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.